Since the beginning of time, humanity has looked upward. The stars have been our guide, our mystery, our gods. But what if the gods we worshipped were not gods at all? What if they were visitors from somewhere far beyond the earth? Every ancient civilization, no matter how distant or disconnected, tells stories of powerful beings descending from the heavens. They came in fiery chariots, in blazing discs, in flying palaces. They brought knowledge, they brought technology, they brought order to chaos. And then, just as suddenly as they arrived, they vanished, leaving behind only myths, monuments, and mysteries. Some call them deities. Others call them ancient astronauts. For decades, this idea has been ridiculed, mocked, and dismissed by mainstream science. Yet the evidence, both physical and mythological, keeps resurfacing stronger than ever. Around the world, strange artifacts, impossible structures, and ancient texts whisper the same story. Humanity may not be alone, and perhaps we never were. But to understand this mystery, we must go back to the very beginning. Because the first question is not, who were these beings? But why do all of humanity's oldest stories sound so strikingly similar? Think about it. The ancient Egyptians believed their gods descended from the stars of Orion and Sirius. The Mayans spoke of sky serpents and gods who flew down to earth to gift them knowledge. The Sumerians wrote detailed accounts of the Anunnaki, beings who came from the heavens to shape mankind itself. In India's Vedas and epics, the skies thundered with Vimanas, flying chariots armed with weapons more powerful than anything humans could imagine. Different continents, different languages, different eras, but the same recurring theme: beings from the sky, wielding advanced technology, shaping the destiny of humanity. Coincidence? Or a hidden truth we've been too afraid to accept? The modern world was first shaken by this theory in 1968, when Erich von Däniken published his book, Chariots of the Gods. He asked questions mainstream historians couldn't answer. How were the Great Pyramids aligned so precisely with Orion's belt? How were the Nazca Lines in Peru created on such a massive scale, visible only from the air? Why do the oldest Sumerian tablets describe machines, astronomy, and mathematics that should have been far beyond their time? The critics said, imagination, misinterpretation, nothing more. But von Däniken's book sold millions of copies. Because deep inside, people knew there are too many coincidences to ignore. And that's where our journey begins. Because tonight, we are not here to prove or disprove. We are here to explore, to follow the trail of myths, stones, and stars, and see where it leads us. So let's start with the monuments, the silent witnesses of time, structures so massive, so advanced, that even modern engineers admit they would struggle to recreate them today. Take the pyramids of Giza, perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions, constructed with blocks weighing up to 80 tons, placed with surgical precision. Even with today's technology, moving and assembling such stones would be a Herculean task. Yet we are told they were built 4,500 years ago, with copper tools and manpower. But what if the Egyptians were not alone? What if the so-called gods they worshipped, Ra, Osiris, Thoth, were not divine spirits, but advanced beings guiding them? The alignment with Orion is not just symbolic. In Egyptian belief, Orion was the home of Osiris, the god who taught them civilization. The pyramids, therefore, were not just tombs. They were beacons, star maps etched into Earth itself. Across the ocean, in Peru, another enigma rises: the Nazca Lines. Hundreds of gigantic geoglyphs carved into the desert floor. Spiders, monkeys, hummingbirds, and massive runways stretching for miles. Runways? Yes, because when viewed from the ground, the lines mean nothing. But from the sky, they come alive. Was this an offering to sky gods? Or a literal landing strip for beings who could fly? And then there's Puma Punku in Bolivia, an ancient site with stone blocks so perfectly cut, so precisely engineered, that they interlock like Lego pieces. Modern engineers admit replicating such cuts would require diamond-tipped drills and advanced machinery. Yet Puma Punku is thousands of years old. Mainstream archaeologists say skilled stonemasons did it. But ask yourself, why build with such unnecessary precision unless it had a technological purpose? Now, let's travel to the east, to India, where the Vedas describe flying chariots called Vimanas. These texts are not vague poetry. They give detailed descriptions of flying machines, their construction, even the metals used. The Samarangana Sutradhara, a Sanskrit text, describes machines that could soar into the sky, powered by mercury engines. Remember, this was written thousands of years ago. And in the Mahabharata, wars are fought with weapons so devastating, they sound eerily similar to nuclear explosions. One passage describes an arrow that blazed like the fire of 1,000 suns, turning everything to ash and causing hair and nails to fall from survivors. Radiation poisoning, described in an ancient epic. Coincidence? Or memory of an ancient war far beyond human capability? In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians wrote of the Anunnaki, literally meaning those who came from the heavens. According to their tablets, these beings descended from the skies, taught humanity agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy, and even shaped mankind itself. They depicted them with wings, helmets, and strange tools. Some even argue their accounts of genetic manipulation mirror modern science. So we must ask, were these myths allegories or eyewitness accounts? Skeptics argue our ancestors were imaginative. They invented gods to explain the unknown. True, but why did their imagination consistently involve flying machines, sky beings, and weapons of unimaginable power? Why not simpler, earthly imagery? The pattern is too strong, too global, too detailed. And then there are the artifacts. Scattered across the world, mysterious objects challenge what we know of history. The Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck in Greece, is essentially an ancient computer, a mechanical device that could predict eclipses and track planetary movements. Experts admit it was at least 1,000 years ahead of its time. Who built it, and where did the knowledge come from? In Iraq, the Baghdad battery ceramic jars with copper cylinders that could generate electricity, 2,000 years old. Officially dismissed as coincidental, but could it have been a remnant of lost technology? In Colombia, small golden figurines shaped like birds or planes. Some have aerodynamic features, stabilizers, and tails identical to modern jets. Engineers have even tested scaled-up versions in wind tunnels. And they fly. These are not coincidences. These are clues. Clues that humanity was either far more advanced than we think, or that someone else was here, showing us the way. Now let's ask the bigger question. If beings from the stars really did visit us, why? What was their purpose? Some say they came as gods, to be worshipped. Others believe they were scientists, experimenting with life on Earth. Some even argue humanity itself is their creation, that we are the product of genetic engineering by extraterrestrial beings. The Sumerian tablets, again, describe how the Anunnaki created man from clay, mixing their own essence with earthly beings. A poetic metaphor, or a literal description of DNA manipulation. And if that's true, what does it mean for us? Are we children of Earth or children of the stars? Let's look at the stories we still tell today. Across cultures, there are constant references to a great flood, a cataclysm that wiped out humanity, after which knowledge had to be relearned, civilizations had to be rebuilt, and survivors carried memories of gods who saved them. In the Bible, Noah's Ark. In Hindu mythology, the story of Matsya, the fish incarnation of Vishnu, who warns of a flood. In Sumerian records, the tale of Utnapishtim, chosen to survive by the gods. Different names, different places, but the same story, a global reset. What if these floods were not just natural disasters, but consequences of something greater? What if they marked the departure or intervention of beings who had been guiding humanity? The flood myths, when studied together, suggest an origin point, a time when humanity had reached an advanced stage and then lost it all. Was it punishment? Or was it protection? A way to wipe the slate clean after dangerous technology fell into human hands. The possibility becomes chilling when we revisit the ancient Indian epics. The Mahabharata describes not just flying chariots, but devastating wars fought with weapons that resemble modern nuclear arms. If these accounts are true, then humanity has already experienced the horrors of advanced technology. And perhaps It was not ours to begin with. Now, skeptics say, these are myths, symbolic stories. But let's pause. Why do myths around the world describe similar advanced tools, sky wars, and heavenly chariots? Why does nearly every culture have gods who come down from the sky and then promise to return one day? Could it be memory? Ancient memory of encounters with extraterrestrials that became enshrined as religion? Look at the depictions. Ancient carvings, temple walls, and sacred art often show beings in strange suits, with helmets and objects that look suspiciously like modern technology. The Mayans carved figures inside what looks like a capsule, complete with breathing apparatus. The Dogon tribe of Africa spoke of star beings from Sirius B, knowledge of a star system invisible to the naked eye, only confirmed by modern telescopes. How did they know? And then there are the anomalies of human history itself. Science says Homo sapiens evolved around 300,000 years ago. But for most of that time, humanity remained primitive. Then suddenly, around 10,000 years ago, something changed. Agriculture, cities, writing, astronomy. Civilization burst into existence almost overnight. What caused this sudden leap? Evolution does not work in jumps, unless it was influenced. Unless something or someone gave us the knowledge. It's here that the ancient astronaut theory becomes most unsettling. Because if beings from the stars shaped us, if they influenced our DNA, our societies, and our myths, then the line between human and God, between man and alien, blurs completely. Were the gods of Olympus, with their weapons and powers, actually a ruling group of extraterrestrials? Were the thunderbolts of Zeus advanced energy weapons? Was Poseidon's trident a machine of seismic power? Were Vishnu's avatars not metaphors, but descriptions of beings arriving in different forms, across different times, with different technologies? And if so, why did they leave? Some theorists believe they never left at all, that they continued to watch, to guide, and perhaps even to intervene. Others suggest they left Earth once humanity was capable of survival on its own. And then there are those who claim they withdrew because we became dangerous, because we began to misuse what they taught us. The truth may be more complex. The stories hint not of one race of visitors, but many. Some benevolent, some destructive. Wars in the sky are described in multiple cultures. Did rival extraterrestrial groups battle for control of Earth? Were humans pawns in a much larger conflict? The possibility is staggering. And then there's the strangest evidence of all, the alignments. Across the world, ancient monuments are aligned not just to the sun and the earth, but to the stars. The pyramids of Giza aligned with Orion's belt. The temples of Angkor Wat reflecting the constellation Draco. Stonehenge aligned with solstices. The Nazca Lines pointing to specific celestial bodies. It is as though the earth was turned into a cosmic map. Why? For whom? These were not coincidences. They were messages, perhaps even markers for those who would one day return. But here's the catch. If these beings were so advanced, why reveal themselves to ancient people and not to us now? Perhaps they have. Modern UFO sightings, strange lights in the sky, objects defying the laws of physics. Governments now admit to unexplained aerial phenomena. Could these be the same beings, returning to observe the species they helped shape? Or are they something entirely new? The most haunting possibility is this. Maybe the gods of old never left at all. Maybe they walk among us, hidden in plain sight, disguised by technology or by form. Perhaps they live beneath the oceans, in places we have never explored. After all, more than 80% of Earth's oceans remain uncharted. Could ancient bases lie beneath the waves, concealed for millennia? And if they are here, what is their plan? Are they guardians, scientists, watchers, or something far more sinister? One thing is certain. The more we uncover about the past, the more questions we are forced to ask about the future. Humanity stands at the edge of space exploration. We dream of colonizing Mars, traveling to other stars. But what if we are not pioneers? What if we are retracing the steps of those who came before us? Perhaps our destiny is not to explore the stars for the first time, but to return to them. The myths tell us as much. The gods descended from the heavens, gave us knowledge, and promised to return. The Anunnaki said they would come again. The Mayan calendar hinted at cycles of return. Even the Bible speaks of a second coming. Different words, different faiths, but the same underlying prophecy. So ask yourself this: when we look to the skies, are we waiting for gods or for our creators to come back?